I think it was a bit of serendipity. I worked for Johnson & Johnson. One of my coworkers was a CASA volunteer, and she was always encouraging me to try it out. But I was really too busy. She knew I was always involved with children, and I wanted to work with children once I left full-time work. And what happened, coincidentally, I was on a business trip and taking the bus from the airport to a hotel, and I sat next to a woman who started talking, and she was a CASA volunteer. And as we were talking about it, the woman in front of her turned around and said, "I'm also a CASA volunteer." One was from Chicago and one was from California. And I went home and I thought, maybe this is a sign. And I called CASA and learned a little bit more about it. And before long, I was interviewed, and then I had a security check, and then I had training. And a couple months later, I had my first case, which was a 16-year-old boy who had lived in several different situations, including a homeless shelter. And he had a lot of problems. That was my first case. It was a good introduction to CASA as a volunteer. The children that I worked with, my first 3 cases were older boys who were just within 2 or 3 years of becoming 18, and their experience in life had been very difficult. There was no reason to trust most adults. They were close to aging out. They didn't have much opportunity to be adopted. But after you worked with them for a while and they saw that you didn't have a motivation, you were just there to help and try to do what was best for them, they began to talk more. And I think the time that I saw that I was making a difference was the few times that they called me at home, like unsolicited, not an appointment, when they were really just stuck with a bad problem. These are not quite the roles sometimes of a CASA worker, but these are the times when I felt that I was making a difference. But the training was very comprehensive. It was complete. It gave us a readiness to deal with the legal system, the many stakeholders involved, even some of the psychological issues, the educational system. So the training was comprehensive, but you really, and it also provided you with contacts at CASA. So I would add that the training is very good, and the supervisors at CASA, when the training hasn't filled in a gap, you can go to the supervisor and they can really help you out with their experience. And the training stabilizes you. It gives you a lot of preparation. And once you've become a CASA volunteer, you realize you need to go back to your training. It's the times when you know you're addressing a problem or a situation that the children have, or you're providing some resources, or you are drawing on your training to direct people to resources. I mean, I've often directed resource parents. I've often gone to educational planning sessions with the schools, because every one of the children that I've worked with has been in special education. I'm not sure they all should be in special education, so I think CASA can play a big role in making sure they're classified correctly, or maybe not classified, so they're not in the classes that they're in. Those roles have been rewarding. They just reached right out. You know, one of them was on New Year's Eve morning, and a boy called me in a big problem. So that was great rewarding. So I just hope I can take some of the learnings and continue to work with some other foster children, especially the older teenagers who don't have as many options and they're going through typical teenage problems. I'm hoping I can reach a little closer and provide more value to some of those kids.